Timeout shoes. Now this is a pair that sometimes we need to wear and sometimes we just don't wear them. They relate to us when we are, shall we say, a little bit upset, possibly a wee bit angry. In fact, maybe a lot angry. And what happens is, someone's come along and they've pushed our buttons and we've gone off like a pocket rocket, and we kind of tend to say things we don't mean. We tend to do things we really probably shouldn't, and then we land up with our regret shoes on because you're like, oh man, I just should never have said that. Now, I would say as well, there's a few things with timeout. Recognize what it is what the hot buttons are. So with all of this stuff, as we go along, you'll be now at a place where you're starting to get clear, if you've been following me for a while, about what your shoes are, what your shoes aren't. There will be, for example, you will now be consciously aware of who triggers you. Now, you may know, oh, Vicky, I don't need to have your stuff to know who ticks me off and who doesn't, right? I know that, but if it's an Enneagram particular number type, that you clash with, yes, we just clash shoes, go and listen to that video. It'll be an Enneagram number that you particularly clash, and we've got to figure out what your number is and what the numbers are that you clash with. So you already know that there's certain types that you're more likely to get triggered by. When you start getting that you are certain types with these clash personalities, you can then choose whether you're going to get triggered by them or not, okay? Because you suddenly realize that it's not personal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is paying attention to hormones, okay? It's that time of the month. It's that time of the month, okay? You're premenopausal or you're menopausal, whatever it is. It's, you're one of those three. If it's that time of the month, or it's where you're going through that and you haven't balanced your system, you're going to go off like a pocket rocket, okay? A lot easier than if you didn't. So how do you get on top of that? Is it that you take your, your rhodiola and your licorice root and some people do black cohosh and, your premenopausal thing, or it might be that, you take your ashwagandha, whatever. Now, I'm not promoting these specifically because, you'd need to find out what, there is a hormonal one that I've done that you can go and listen to help if that's one of the things. But if you know it's coming, prepare so that you're not going to go off like a pocket rocket in the first place, okay? Or going to be less likely. If you stabilize your emotions, don't eat crap is another thing. So like if you're eating gluten, anything that's inflammatory, gluten, sugar, drinking, unhealthy foods like high fat fried foods, anything that's going to burden your system and your liver that would normally burn off that estrogen, so that you're dumping it rather than retaining it, it's going to be helpful. So the timeout shoes sometimes, though, irrespective of all of that, okay, you go, well, these are my shoes and they wear those ones, and and something's happened and you've just boom and you've gone off like a pocket rocket and you go, oh my goodness, you got to hit the timeout button. And I literally think of one of those little red, like sort of like those hot buttons that time out, okay, and you just shut down, just like I'm leaving the building. And you literally do that if you have to take you away physically from what it is that's triggering you. Okay, sometimes you can't do that, but you can try and do the shelly shoes where you go and you put your shell and you switch off. You can't hear them, you can't see them, they can't touch you, you just let them, and then you change what it means. You can look at them and have them dancing around and tutus and whatever it is, playing silly music so you can't hear what they're saying. You change the scenario so that you are not impacted negatively to the point where you explode, okay? You have to do timeout. Sometimes you just go timeout, because if I don't leave the room now, and sometimes you actually have to say that, is you go, do you know what? I'm really not in a good place right now. I'm feeling very angry. And you can even say, what you've said or what you've done has really upset me to the point where I know I'm going to regret what I'm going to say or do, or both. So I'm actually going to leave the building so that I can get my head around this. And we can have this discussion later when I've calmed down and when you've calmed down too. Okay, so that tends to be the timeout button. Okay, you got to push it. You got to go, oh, I'm out of here. I'm not having this discussion right now. And then you go away and do your ERT, your emotional resilience toolkit, release all the extra stuff that, let's be more articulate. The extra overwrought energy is released, okay? And where you go from your sympathetic, oversympathetic drive system down to parasympathetic. And when you're calmer, you'll be able to see more reason. If you can't see the reason, you'll come up with more solutions and you'll be able to handle better. Okay, so you hit the timeout button, you step out, and then you go away and you do your emotional resilience toolkit so that you can bring your, the temperature down, everything down. And it may take minutes, it may take hours, sometimes depends on how serious the argument or whatever it was. And then you've also got the scenario of you now have a toolkit that helps you to deal with the upset and then get clear about what it is exactly and find your way. Now, sometimes you can't do it all on your own. So you sometimes need to have a coach or a really good buddy that's not going to color the vision, who will try and remain as neutral as possible, that will give you an objective viewpoint, that not just validate your side, because quite often they'll only have one side of the story. If you can get that sort of balanced approach, that will definitely help as well. And then when you go back into the environment of whatever, you can go, okay, I'm ready for my discussion, and this is what triggered me, XYZ, and my request is XYZ, that you don't do this or you don't say that, or I was really hurt by, because a lot of anger is actually driven by hurt. It's like, you hurt me, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would say that or do that or whatever it is, like, or they're frustrated about something else and they go, oh, I get it, so you took it out on me, it had nothing to do with me. So it gives you that space to get the understanding around what's actually happened, and then gives you the ability to come up with solutions that are more likely to work, that are going to help heal, reunite, and keep you together, and progress forward, as opposed to complete and utter Hiroshima meltdown where there's only fallout and now you've got to mitigate all the damage that's actually happened. All right, so sometimes you're not going to get the buy-in from the other person, and sometimes you have to go, well, do you know what, that's okay, that's your path, your shoes, your way, that doesn't work for me, and I'm not going to, then it's up to you to decide what you do with that. But you have to hit that timeout button sometimes, ladies. It's just how it is. Nobody's perfect. We're all human. We do it. We've all been guilty of it. I mean, I can't stand in, I'm not on any form of pedestal whatsoever saying that I've not done that. We've all done it, and it's like, right, how can we do it better? That's what it is, isn't it? How to be the best version of ourselves, even when, things happen and they set us off. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment if you'd like. Okay, thank you so much. Namaste.